You think the fight started over dishes. It didn't. You think it started because she was annoyed you were 20 minutes late. It didn't. Almost every fight you've ever had wasn't actually about the thing you were fighting about. It just felt that way in the moment, because the moment is loud and the real cause is quiet. Here's what's actually happening underneath it. Your brain isn't built for calm disagreement. The second you feel criticized, your nervous system reads it as a threat. Not a metaphorical one, an actual one, the same circuitry that would fire if something jumped out at you in the dark. Heart rate spikes, blood moves towards your limbs. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of you that thinks clearly, weighs context, and listens well, quietly goes offline. Psychologist John Gottman, after decades of studying couples in his lab, gave this a name: flooding. Once you're flooded, you're not really talking anymore. You're just defending territory. So the dishes were never the real issue. The lateness was never the real issue. Those were triggers, small sparks landing on something that was already dry. The actual fight, almost every time, is about whether she feels heard. Think about the last argument you lost even though you were factually right. You had the timeline. You had the receipts. You still lost. Why? Because being right and being heard are two completely different games, and you were only playing one of them while she was playing the other. Women, on average, report feeling unheard as the single biggest source of conflict in relationships, according to research out of the Gottman Institute spanning over 4 decades of data on real couples. Not cheating, not money, although money fights get louder. Feeling unheard. That quiet feeling is the actual fight, hiding underneath every smaller one you think you're having. Here's the part that stings a little. Most men respond to conflict by trying to fix it immediately. Solve the problem, remove the discomfort, move on with the day. That instinct isn't wrong. It's just early. You're offering a solution before she's finished feeling the feeling, and so it lands as dismissal even when your intentions were completely good. You wanted to help. She heard, "Stop talking about this." So what actually works? First, slow down before you speak. Not because you're weak or because you have nothing to say, because your brain is still flooded and anything that comes out of your mouth right now is coming from the threat response, not from you. Neuroscientist Jill Bolte-Taylor's research on emotional reactions found that a stress hormone spike takes roughly 90 seconds to clear enough for you to think straight again. 90 seconds. That's it. Count it if you have to. Second, before you defend yourself, repeat back what she actually said, not what you assume she meant, not the worst-case version your brain wants to argue against. What she said, in her words, close enough that she nods. This is called reflective listening, and it diffuses more arguments than any counterargument ever will, because it proves you were actually in the room with her instead of just waiting for your turn to talk. Notice what this isn't. It isn't caving. It isn't agreeing with everything she says just to end the discomfort. It isn't becoming a pushover who has no opinions of his own. You can still disagree after this step. You can still hold your position. You're just proving you heard her first. That single sequence, listen, reflect, then respond, changes the entire emotional temperature of the room before a single argument has even been made. Why does the order matter so much? Because when someone feels unheard, their brain keeps escalating to be heard louder. Raised voice, repeated point, bringing up last month's unrelated complaint. It's not because she's irrational. It's because the message isn't landing, so the volume goes up to compensate. The moment she feels actually received, that escalation has no fuel left. You're not shutting her down by staying calm. You're removing the reason to escalate in the first place. Here's the twist almost nobody tells you, and it's the part that will actually change how you see conflict for good. The couples who fight the least aren't the ones who avoid disagreement. They're the ones who repair fast. Gottman's long-term research found that successful couples argue just as often as couples who eventually break up. The disagreements themselves weren't the predictor of failure. Repair speed was. A joke at the right moment. An apology that arrives in minutes instead of festering for days. A hand on the shoulder instead of cold silence stretched across a dinner table. So stop trying to prevent every disagreement. You genuinely can't, and trying to will only make you resentful, walking on eggshells, and paradoxically make her feel managed instead of loved, which creates more distance, not less. Instead, get fast at repair. That is the actual learnable skill hiding inside all of this. Not conflict avoidance, conflict recovery. What does fast repair actually look like in practice? It's small. It's almost embarrassingly small. It's saying, "I hear you, and I was wrong about that," before your ego finishes drafting its rebuttal. It's texting something light 20 minutes after a tense morning instead of letting the tension sit until dinner. It's being the one who breaks the silence first, even when part of you feels like you shouldn't have to be. Being right about who started it has never once made anyone feel closer to their partner. There's also a physical piece to this that most men skip entirely. If you're still flooded, your body hasn't caught up with your intentions yet, no matter how badly you want to be calm. Take an actual walk. Splash cold water on your face. Do 20 seconds of slow breathing before you go back into the conversation. This isn't soft. Elite athletes and hostage negotiators use the exact same physiological reset. Your nervous system doesn't care that you're trying to save your relationship instead of a life. The biology is the same, and so is the fix. One more thing worth saying plainly. None of this means suppressing what you actually think or feel. A man who agrees with everything just to avoid conflict isn't calm, he's just quietly resentful, and that resentment always finds a way out later, usually sideways, usually at the worst possible moment. The goal was never silence. The goal is sequence. Hear first, reflect second, respond third. You still get to say what you think. You just stop saying it while she's mid-sentence and still needs to feel the floor under her. So, here's what to actually do. Next time you feel a fight building, whether it's over dishes, timing, money, or something that seems too small to matter, pause before responding, even if it feels unnatural, even if silence feels like losing. Reflect back what she said before you defend your own position. And once it's over, repair quickly, even if a small part of you still feels annoyed underneath it. Speed of repair matters more than who was technically correct. Let's talk about timing too, because most fights don't erupt at random. They erupt at predictable moments. Right after work, when you're both depleted and running on fumes. Late at night, when exhaustion makes every small thing feel enormous. Right before either of you has to leave the house, when there's no time to actually resolve anything and the conversation just gets stuffed down and left to rot. If you notice a pattern of blowups at the same time of day, that's not coincidence. That's your combined nervous systems running on empty at a predictable hour. Sometimes the fix isn't communication at all. It's simply agreeing that serious conversations don't happen after 9 at night or in the first 10 minutes after either of you walks through the door. There's also a myth worth killing here. A lot of men grow up believing that a low conflict relationship means a good one, and that any disagreement is a sign something's broken. That belief alone causes more damage than the actual disagreements do, because it turns every normal friction point into evidence of failure. Gottman's research is almost boring on this point. Conflict itself is not the enemy. Contempt is. Stonewalling is. Criticism aimed at her character instead of her behavior is. You can raise your voice occasionally and still have a great relationship. What you can't survive long-term is eye-rolling, sarcasm, or the silent treatment used as a weapon. So if you take nothing else from this, take the difference between those two things. A disagreement about dishes is just logistics. Contempt during that disagreement is what actually corrodes things. You can fix logistics in 5 minutes. Contempt takes months to undo, if it can be undone at all. One last thing, and it's the one most guides skip because it's not flattering. You're allowed to walk away mid-conversation, but only if you say so out loud first. I need 10 minutes. I'm not walking away from you. I just need to reset. Is a completely different move than silently leaving the room, which reads as abandonment in the middle of a moment she needed you present for. The words cost you nothing. The silence costs you trust. Say the sentence. Fix that one thing, and you'll find most of your fights disappear before they even fully start.